Welcome to the Health and Healing Podcast with me, Sophia, where I talk all things to do with health and healing, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I share insights from personal stories, client wins, chats with other practitioners, and offer nourishing support for those navigating the healing path. Now, if you are wanting to feel healthier, more at home in your body, and in love with your life, then you are in the right place, my love. Enjoy the episode. All right, welcome everyone to another day, another episode. This topic today is really alive for me right now, and so I like to write notes. I'm very much a writer. I like to put things down to help organize my thoughts, help to articulate my ideas. And I've got 4 bullet points. So I really have not written much down today because I just want to speak from what is really true, what is really alive, what is really happening. And I feel like it's going to be so powerful and important. So grab yourself a cup of tea, a journal, a pen, get yourself comfortable, get settled, or of course, as always, you can continue doing whatever you need to be doing and listening to this in the background. I'm sure you will absorb the golden nuggets that you need to today. So today's topic is all around the importance of feeling the depth of the pain, the emotions that come with the health conditions, that comes with the challenges to do with your body and the physical expression. We talked about it in the first episode, the symptoms and how they are an expression of what is imbalances happening in the body and how that expression can be really uncomfortable. And so when we are in those moments, when we are experiencing these challenges within our bodies, oftentimes we can so quickly and easily jump to, I really just want this to go away. I want to fix this and I want to get rid of it. But in doing that, you are denying yourself feeling the fullness of what is present, the fullness of what is alive in this moment. And that is an uncomfortable physical sensation, emotional sensations, energetic sensations, mental thoughts, right? That is the reality. It is challenging, it is confronting, it is asking for your attention. And when we bypass that and we jump straight to trying to get rid of it, we are not hearing ourselves. We are not listening. And oftentimes you hear people talk about listen to the body, listen to the body, listen to the body. What does that mean? And that can be a whole topic, a whole episode for itself. And I'm sure I will actually get into that at some stage. But to listen to the body means to be still and quiet with yourself enough to recognize and let what is simmering within come to the surface to be moved through the body. And that movement through the body could be physical, it could be vocalizing, it could be emotional release. There are a lot of different ways in which it wants to be expressed. It could be writing things down, journaling, expression through that form. But oftentimes we know what it is that we need in this moment. But we are so afraid and so conditioned to not feel the feelings, to not own the experience, to not be in the discomfort, that we run and we avoid, because that is seemingly so much easier. It's so much easier to just forget that it ever was there in the first place, but then it never gets resolved. And so when we come to this experience where we are faced with a reaction within us, it's really important to, in those moments of the reaction, to identify what that reaction is for you. And so what I mean is, if you are experiencing a flare in sensation, a flare of pain, you're wiped out, you've got chronic fatigue, bloating, headaches, migraines, brain fog, anything like that, some menstrual issues, challenges, and you have that rising of uncomfortable sensation, asking yourself first and foremost how you are addressing that. Are you taking painkillers? Are you taking medications? Are you trying to suppress it? Or do you allow the fullness of it to come to the surface? And so sometimes we just try to push through. We push through, we push through. We think we have to. You know, we've got work, we've got kids, we've got all these things to do, and we need to push through. But it is so important to have that time to be like, oh, I feel this urge to ignore what is happening. I feel like I just need to keep going. And instead of choosing that path, to give yourself, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes, that time to be with your body with as minimal distractions as possible, and to see what comes up, to feel the sensation. And from that point, you can start to identify, putting a name to it. Because sometimes when we experience this rush of discomfort and we straight away jump to wanting to get rid of it, we're missing the intricacies of what we're actually feeling. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to use my example that I'm experiencing right now. So right now I've been experiencing discomfort in my jaw. And this ties back to my last episode where I talked about the trauma from my wisdom tooth removal and how I've had challenges ongoing since. And so I'm feeling discomfort around my teeth, some sensitivities. I feel like there might be a hole, or there is just a change in what is happening in my mouth, and it feels uncomfortable, and I have some pain deep in the lower parts of my jaw. And that pain is kind of like a dull, achy, niggle type pain. Like, it's not like sharp or stabbing, but it's lingering. And I feel when I focus in on it, so I'm going to use this example and I'm going to hone in on describing the sensation and really being with the sensation. So we're doing this in live time to move through it. And then you can apply this concept to your own experience, your own sensation. So when I really focus in, I feel this fullness deep in my jaw, this uncomfortable sensation that feels tense and tight. I feel sensitivity through the undersides beneath my teeth. And as I focus in on it, I feel a restriction form in my throat. I feel like the hairs on my arms and shoulders standing up. And I'm understanding that as my body feels frightened, my nervous system is stepping into stress mode in response to the sensation. I feel my heart rate increase. And I feel what wants to come through is an emotional release. I feel a constriction through my nose, the back of my nose, and a fullness building up behind my eyes. That is the reality of this sensation right now. And I even get a bit nauseous through my gut, through my stomach, at the base of my rib cage. So that is the truth of the sensation that I've been navigating in the last few days, the last week or so. And what I've just done is I've put words to it. I've described the sensation, not saying it's right or it's wrong, but I've just described what I'm feeling for myself. And what I've described partly is the localized experience where I'm experiencing the discomfort in my body through the jaw, but I've also described my nervous system's response. How I respond with a underlying fear to that sensation. So it's no longer just the sensation then. It's no longer just, oh, my jaw feels a bit uncomfortable. Okay, moving on. It's, oh, my jaw feels uncomfortable. My body is perceiving a threat. That is a reactivation of the trauma I experienced years ago. What is yet left to be resolved in my energetic and emotional body. So do I then suppress that? Do I then push it down and ignore it? Or do I give myself the permission to feel it, to breathe into it, and to remind my body that it is safe? In this moment, I am safe. Now, I invite you to practice that for yourself. You can do this right now. What sensation are you experiencing? What brings discomfort into your body right now? Breathing into it. And reminding your body that you are safe. In this moment, you are safe. No longer attaching meaning of there's something wrong with me when you experience a discomfort or a symptom, where that can generate the fear and the panic and the worry, but recognizing that you're experiencing these signals from the body. And you can, in response to those signals, take an action, but it is important that that action comes from a place where you are grounded in safety within yourself. You can then identify where you are being triggered, where your nervous system is being triggered, where you are stepping into a stress response. And that is the first thing to address. Because if you start to make decisions and actions based on that stress response, when right now the action isn't life-threatening or immediate, you're taking actions to survive when really the actions need to be oriented around thriving. Because you are alive, you are okay, there's no immediate threat right now. And so then it is being with recognizing within myself, okay, there's no urgent, immediate threat. I'm okay. Breathing into it. However, I recognize that I may need to take an action at some stage. Something might need shifting. But it's not urgent right now. And I first need to take care of my body so that it feels safe, so that it can think clearer, be a bit more logical, feel into what is in alignment, and take an action that comes from that place of this is going to optimally serve my body, as opposed to this is what's just going to get me to survive right now. So that immediate survival is not considering longevity. And when it comes to health and chronic health, we're talking about longevity. So we need to make those decisions from a grounded place where we can tune into a version of ourselves, the truth of ourselves that feels safe and centered, so we can feel the energetic quality of longevity for ourselves and make decisions, taking actions that are in alignment with that version of us. If we keep taking action from a place of surviving, just trying to get through the day because we're so worried and panicked and mistrusting of our bodies, we are perpetuating the cycle of survival. So take a moment just to integrate that while I have a little sip of my tea. I feel so deeply passionate about this topic right now, as it is something that I've cycled through for many years and have come to be way more familiar with it. By no means am I a master. I still navigate these cycles. However, I have so many more tools and resources and self-awareness to navigate it so that it doesn't need to take over my life in the way it once did. And so there's something else I want to address here, and that is to do with when these sensations arise, oftentimes there is a level of resistance. And I still have this. Most of the time I move through the resistance and I take the aligned action and I feel better for it. But sometimes the resistance comes and it is strong and you just want to distract yourself, you just want to escape. And there are times where that is appropriate. First and foremost, I'll acknowledge that. There are times where that might be the most appropriate thing, is just take your mind off it, forget about it. Your body will come back to its center. However, when the trigger arises again, and you keep replaying that same pattern, that same cycle, you're never actually shifting your relationship to the trigger. And so this is where meeting our resistance is so important, and learning how to do that in a way that feels held and supported, where you feel safe in your body, and working with someone can be so helpful for this. Having a coach, getting support from someone who has experience with navigating that resistance. But let's talk a little bit about it. So that resistance, you might feel as constriction in the body. You might feel as disassociating from your body. You may immediately want to jump to doing something else, distracting your mind. It can come in so many different forms. You can get really scattered and unsettled and kind of shaky or like twitchy in your body. You can't hold still, you can't be still, you don't want to be still, because that means then addressing what has been sitting in your body, right? And so in those moments of resistance, when you notice it, first it's becoming self-aware and being able to identify the cycle. And when you do then notice it, breathing into it and asking your body questions to do with this resistance, or asking it to kind of come to the surface. And you may like to journal. Sometimes writing these things down can help, but sometimes you can also just do an internal inquiry, or you can talk to yourself out loud, or look in the mirror and speak to yourself through the mirror. And then you ask yourself, what is it that I need right now? Where am I holding resistance in my body? And what can I do that is most supportive for my well-being in this moment? Feeling that constriction, that edgy feeling, the uncomfortableness, and asking yourself, what can I do for you right now in this moment? What is going to be most supportive? And that is when you can start to receive clarity on moving forward. And so I'm not going to specifically tell you what that answer is going to be, because that is your internal inquiry. And the answer will change at different times. However, I'll speak about how there are different expressions for what is needed. And sometimes if we're not actually aware of what it can look like, what the overcoming of resistance can look like, and what the expression ends up being, it can be hard to know whether or not it's authentic or not within the body. It can be hard to know if this is really what I need to do, or if it's just my protective self wanting to keep me safe and in this surviving state. And so oftentimes what is needed, the resistance is suppressing emotion. Oftentimes what is needed is an emotional release. This could be grief, this could involve tears, this could involve vocalizing, like deep humming, or it could involve being louder, yelling. You can scream into a pillow. It could involve moving your body, shaking your body. It could involve dancing. Something I felt very drawn to this year is dancing. And so a lot of my practice of overcoming the resistance is meeting myself with music and in a dance. And with that comes the emotion, the tears, the grief, the pain, the heartache. But I move my whole body, I dance, I flow, I breathe, I connect to all the different sensations. And instead of getting stuck up in my head, I bring my awareness down into my body. And so that can be incredibly healing in terms of, or that can be what it looks like when you're overcoming that resistance. You become more grounded in the body. So for men and women, this can look a little bit different. I will speak more to women, as that is my personal experience and that is what I'm more familiar with. However, the general concept stands true for both. The form of movement for a woman could be different from a man. However, movement, that physical expression, is really relevant for both. And so for women, oftentimes it's connecting to the sensual nature of your body that can be really powerful. So like moving the hips, feeling through the abdomen, the pelvis, also touching your body, connecting to the senses. That's really powerful for grounding a woman in her body and feeling safer in her nervous system and feeling safer to be with herself and hold herself. And so this is something that I see is missed so many times when it comes to navigating health challenges, is we're constantly jumping from supplement to practitioner to diet. And while all those practical action steps can be really helpful, like I have done so many, made so many dietary changes, I've done different supplement protocols, herbal protocols, they have really helped. They have really helped. However, I'm going to still be playing out the same pattern within my body until I address where that pattern is coming from and the stress that has been sitting and playing out in my body for potentially years. And in my case, it has been years. And for most of us, it has been years. It's from childhood, where we learn these coping mechanisms and we never grow out of it because we never get fully educated on how to be in our bodies and how to feel safe in our bodies. And the external expression of health conditions and discomfort and pain is really the body pleading for attention and help and support. And there's that concept, well-known concept of oftentimes when children hurt themselves or are injured or are sick, they get the most nurturing and love from their caregivers. And so then we learn at that young age, this is how the brain works. We learn patterns. We learn that if I am unwell, I will be more loved and supported and held. And so we then play that same pattern out as adults, expecting to be met with more love. And sometimes we receive that. But we end up stuck in that cycle of being a victim and relying on others to make us feel safe. And there is a time for co-regulation. There is a time for coming together and supporting one another, in 100%. However, if you're still living in that chronic cycle of pain and health challenges, there needs to be an element of taking self-responsibility and holding yourself as an adult. You're no longer a child. You're an adult, and an adult needs to be able to hold themselves. That is what we really need to be learning as children, is how we can build resilience and strength and hold ourselves emotionally. And that's not to say we can't rely on other people, of course. We're community creatures. We need each other. That is such a beautiful part of being a human. But sometimes we might not have access to that. And we need to also still feel really deeply connected to our physiology, to our whole body, so that we can move the body. We can express through the body and feel safe doing that. Now, I know that I have certain situations where in a given circumstance, I will feel my body shut down and go into freeze. I'll have jolts of energy rush through my body. I'll feel restricted through my throat. I'll close down my posture. That is still me playing out this behavior from childhood. And the more we can become aware of these closing experiences in the body, the more we can start to, in those moments when it flares up, when it is triggered, hold ourselves, determine if we are actually safe or not. Is there a physical threat or not? Or is there a perceived threat based on my immature child mind that is sitting within? And that's not a criticism either. That is factual. When we are children, we're developing, we're learning, like we're absorbing everything, and we learn patterns and behaviors, and we don't really question them. We just see what happens around us and then form responses through the body to protect ourselves. But as adults, we can then look at the situations in a different lens, through a different perspective, through a fully formed brain, and with more understanding. And also, we're no longer reliant on caregivers for our survival. As children, right, we need people to take care of us, otherwise we won't survive. That is a fact. A baby will not survive without a mother, a father, a caregiver. That is their food source, their shelter, their water, their everything. But as adults, we can provide that for ourselves. We have much more access and capability. So then we need to remind ourselves, okay, am I actually in danger? Or can I provide for myself in this moment a sense of safety that I'm longing for, that I'm needing? So just taking a moment to breathe. There's a lot of information there. Taking a moment to breathe and to ground. So the key really behind all this is the more we can get in touch with identifying and understanding what we are experiencing through our body, the reactions, the responses. The more we can step into this inner guardian. I work a lot with the inner guardian when I do inner child healings and working with the inner child. And it's basically connecting to this version within where the version within that is strong, stable, nurturing, deeply grounded, that feels safe, that feels empowered and confident, and can hold the inner child within. We have access to that in this moment. We are able to self-soothe in that way by providing ourselves with the reassurance, love, and nurturance that we need. So in those moments, tuning into the inner guardian and really asking yourself and recognizing within what it is you need. And I want to hone in more on women now again. I mentioned that this is applicable for both men and women, 100%. We all need to get in touch with the fullness of our bodies, not just trying to intellectually understand everything, but really feeling the depth of it in our bodies. That is the most liberating thing you can do to overcome perceived fears, threats, and situations that trigger your survival mode, which may be outdated. And we all have it. We all can be triggered by something that isn't actually so feasible or isn't actually as relevant to who we are today. But it's just a pattern we've practiced over and over and over and over again. And that's how the body conserves energy, and that's how, as humans we function. We function through patterns But if those patterns no longer serve us in the current environment we live in, we have a responsibility to change those patterns, and we have the option to change those patterns. Is it challenging? Yes. It's confronting? Yes. And this is where I love, for myself, working with others. I love working with coaches. I love putting myself in environments where I'm met with a bit of challenge and my own inner resistance. And I start to ask deeper questions of myself. Where am I holding resistance? What do I make this mean about myself? Why am I judging this experience? Why do I feel unsafe? Is it genuinely unsafe, or am I playing out my mother's voice, my father's voice, my upbringing, what school told me, what this one person, a friend, said 20 years ago, right? We can then self-reflect and determine for ourselves whether it stands or not. And so what I have been loving recently is if you don't already know, I'm based in the Auckland area, and I create lots of events for women. I have an event that me and my friend Hannah run. We do Restore and Reiki, and it's a women's healing circle. And we guide the women deeply to connect to their bodies through restorative yoga. We offer energy healing. There's some sound bowls and all these beautiful reflective practices, very soft and gentle, to guide the women back into a sense of safety within their bodies. But I also run different events for women, some that are more expressive, more grounding into the physical body and allowing for and inviting a bigger, expansive movement. So restorative yoga is very soft and gentle, but sometimes we need to shake. Sometimes we need to be big and expansive in our movement. And there's a time and place for all of it, right? I love to address the different elements of the different qualities of moving in the body. And for different women, for different people coming to that kind of experience, they will meet their edge in different ways. They may initially feel really uncomfortable. And this was me as well. Not even that long ago, feeling like I wouldn't want to dance in front of anyone. I wouldn't want to move my body in front of anyone. And I have this pattern since I was a child. I remember when I was in primary school, so between the ages of 5 and 10 really, I would actively, and I consciously remember this, I would intentionally try to keep a neutral face. I wouldn't laugh. I wouldn't show any emotion. I would just try to not move my face. I would try to hold as still as I possibly could in my body so no one could read me, so no one could get close. Because I didn't want anyone to look at me. I didn't want anyone to judge me or criticize me. I didn't want to be seen. So I would physically blank. And I knowingly did that. I can't fully articulate why in those moments I did that. It was a safety piece. It was a sense of control for myself. I haven't been able to trace it back to one particular event, but to me, if it needs to, it will come. But I just knew I had that pattern, and I had that pattern all through growing up into adulthood. And the more I lean into the discomfort of learning to share my expression through my body, through my face, or the movements, through my whole body, my hips, my arms, my legs, everything, the more at home I feel in my body, the more safe I feel in my body, because I am reclaiming my expression for myself. And then I slowly, and this is what is really helpful for everyone, is to slowly build up that sense of safety. You might need to it might start with you being at home by yourself, just a couple minutes, maybe just looking in the mirror for 2 minutes and just seeing yourself. That might be so uncomfortable, but over time it gets a little bit easier and you feel a bit safer and you feel a bit more relaxed in your body. And then maybe you put on some music and you move with yourself just a little bit. Maybe that feels really edgy. You're afraid, someone's going to be looking around the side, or someone's going to come in, knock on the door and see you moving your body, and you feel this tension and uncomfortableness. Or maybe you're just uncomfortable moving your body in this different new way. And then slowly you might feel a bit more comfortable. Oh yeah, I'm enjoying this. And the expression becomes bigger, becomes louder. And then the next stage could be perhaps you find an experience, an event where you go to with other women, or for men, you go to with other men, and you start to lean into that expression and being witnessed. Now that can be really uncomfortable, to be witnessed and guided and held by someone else, because maybe in the past it was not safe to be seen in that way by someone else. All the patterns growing up were, I can't do this because I will get told off, I will be judged, I will be shunned, I will be ridiculed, I will be physically in threat, my body might not be safe if I did this. And that might have been really true for that time in your life, but if we can slowly lean into the edges of shifting that narrative of what was 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago is not what is now. And we inquire and find practitioners that we trust, we feel safe with. We find facilitators we feel safe with to start to express. And also having a space where if you feel the resistance, if you meet the resistance, you can bring it to the space and you can vocalize it and be met with the love and understanding of, hey, I sometimes feel that too, and it's okay. Isn't it so beautiful that you can bring that emotion and sensation to the space and be loved? Actually, just saying that brings tears to my eyes, because it is so beautiful when we have been hiding these parts of ourselves for so long out of fear of judgment, fear of criticism. And finally, we start to liberate ourselves. We start to be seen in who we are. And the pattern we may have been playing in our minds is that I'm unlovable if I show this. And you are met with love, and you're met with warmth and open arms and recognition on this deep soul level that you are exactly where you need to be. You're exactly who you need to be. That is one of the most liberating feelings. It genuinely is. And you can choose that for yourself. It's edgy, it's uncomfortable, but it will bring you closer to your body. And part of the reason we start to experience the pain and the chronic health challenges is because we have been holding back our expression for so long. We haven't been sharing all of ourselves because it has felt safer to retract. And the body holds on to the physical tension of that. Hypervigilance, looking over its shoulder wherever it goes, constantly afraid of being judged, constantly afraid of what other people are thinking. Am I safe in this moment? Am I not? Imagine if you could liberate yourself from those stories. And you feel open, you feel confident, your body feels stronger. You walk down the street and you have a smile on your face because you feel so free. You can hold yourself in the uncomfortable sensations of your body, the pain, any health condition you're experiencing. And you can love it. You don't have to deny it anymore because you are expressed. I think that is where I'm going to leave it today. If you feel called to, as a woman, if you feel called to really connecting to this deeper expression within yourself, to liberate yourself from the patterns, the somatic patterns of holding and repressing, and when you're feeling so overwhelmed by your own body and your own physiology and reactive and out of control, if you want to really re-inhabit yourself as a woman, I highly encourage, and you're in my area, I highly encourage you to look into some of the events that I offer. I keep creating new ones and changing and refining and The regular ones is Restore and Reiki, and I'll put the link to my workshop link in the show notes in the description. You're more than welcome to have a look. If you're not in my area and you still want to connect to this and you resonate with how I talk, how I express the words that I speak and my energy, then I do have a 8-month nervous system soothing course, and we would address this in the course as well. It's all online, and so we'll bring some of these practices to that space, and I'll guide you through it. And I have meditations and yoga practices in a library as well that you have access to, and you can do that from the comfort of your own home. And we can connect online, which is really beautiful too. I would also, of course, support you in finding some real human interaction in real life too. I love online work. I've worked with online coaches so many times, and I love it. You learn so much, and you can start to do that self-integration and meet other women or other men in the online space. And it's that real entry point and helps you deepen as well. But then also having your in-person community is so helpful. So I always love to encourage to have a bit of both. You do your own personal stuff, and then you can expand out into your community. In terms of the events I offer right now, they're primarily just for women. One of my online courses, the 21-day anti-inflammatory reset, is for men and women, but I would love to cultivate more spaces for men, and that will be coming in the future. It is something I am currently navigating and working with and learning about. So yeah, stay tuned for that. It might be a little while down the track though. But if you are interested, I'll put all those links of the things I've just mentioned in the show notes. And of course, feel free to reach out to me through my email, through Instagram, Facebook, my website, whichever one. And yeah, I would love to know how you found what I've spoken about today, if it's resonated with you, and yeah, some of your biggest learnings or takeaways. So feel free to offer your feedback and your insights and what you've learned from today. And have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day, beautiful rest of your week, and you'll hear from me soon.